Hey Patron, Mouth Olympus Reptiles, and I wish that your video was me filling this rack, but it's not. So sorry about that. However, maybe Kurt will post some pictures when he gets to do it. I'm a little bummed I'm gonna not be here to see the new ones move over in here, but I will miss that for pretty much the first 4 clutches, most likely. That's really a sad face. However, I will make Kurt send me pictures of those 2 weird champagnes. What you don't realize is as you're seeing all this, we just cut those champagnes. So like you saw that live, we came over here and we filmed. So let's talk about kind of this room and the plans, because you've seen this house enough, you've heard some of the plans. We've started to show you a few things, so I want to kind of share with you. So how this will work, and the reason I chose this rack now, 2 reasons. Actually, there's 3 reasons. 1, it can hold 40 babies, actually 39 babies, I take that back, 39. And if you do the math of what we've got hatched out, we did, I believe it was 7 and 9. So there was 16, 10, 26, and 6, which is 32. And then, yeah, I think that's it for right now. So there's 32 babies, and then there's another clutch. I don't remember what clutch 5 has. I think it has 10. So this rack, though, can hold everything that's going to be out of the egg in a shed by the time I get back. So I wanted to get this set up so Kurt wasn't like, what the fuck do I do now? That asshole left me with no plan. So that's one reason why we chose this rack. The other reason is, again, we got to buy some new equipment for this room. Like we're going to need, you know, some different electrical extensions and power strips and just kind of setting it up. And we knew that, but it's hard to envision everything you're going to need till you're actually in here doing stuff. And this one was close enough to the Herpstat 6 that I could plug it in. And that may sound like a small thing, but I that's a big deal. So we chose to do this one. I almost chose to set these up. My original, man, I'll set those up and they'll be here in the corner. I'll use those new shiny TGRs. I'm really excited to use them. The problem came in is there's 28 spots, right? And so if I set those 2 up, I got them running on their 28 spots, Kurt's gonna be out of snakes at number 28 and be like, what the fuck? So we had to go and do one of these first. Now, whenever I get this one done, these will probably be the next 2 I set up, and then this. And we'll probably run an extension in here, and I'll probably add another Herpstat in here, because that Herpstat's going to be busy with that entire wall is kind of the plan. And then I won't have cords running as much in and out. It can be just one that's ran semi, not quite as janky. Same with the stuff out here. Like this cannot stay. Obviously. So what we'll end up doing is taking one extension cord that will come out here, run up along here for now, come down and connect to that. So we're not like stretching. Actually, we'll probably add a single Herpstat here too, and then just an extension cord to get power. That way the probe cord isn't stretching over and I can use all the tubs. Those are the things that we weren't sure of setting this room up. Somebody asked about, have you ever done a room setup video on that live? I'm like, well, no, I haven't. One of the reasons is it's such a dynamic thing and things change. So like when I came into this house and we decided to purchase it, the plan was always for this room we're in now to be the baby room, and that room to be the ball python room, and that other room was meant to be kind of maybe some display and overflow, and it kind of came more display. I don't really think we're going to have to run any overflow in there. There will be overflow out of here. I cannot possibly hold the babies. I anticipate creating at about 4 or 5 years from now in this room. Or even with this, there will be several baby racks crammed into this room too. But my home office will end up being a home office / baby rack room, which I'm okay with. So that's going to be a thing. But with that, you know, it's hard to do a video on just how we set up the room until it's set up, and then we can talk about it, because we don't really know what the hell we're doing until we start putting things together and moving things over, seeing how things actually fit, and then what fits into our vision changes. Because this really wasn't in my vision. So you come in here, and you know, initially I thought I would run adult females here, which is going to happen, and then I would run adult females here, all the way to that post, which can't happen because my fat ass wouldn't be able to fit through there and tubs would run into each other. And then I kind of thought maybe I could run a row of these guys here back to back. It's like in the middle you'd have like back to back, and then but there was really no way to do that and not have room. I mean, I might be able to stick 3 in here, like one there, maybe one here. Then you'd have this weird rack in the middle that would look like really stupid. So I elected just not to do that. And then this doesn't work quite the same, because you start thinking about your cord situation, which is a plug it in the floor. So everything is very dynamic when you're setting up your reptile room to an extent, unless you build the room and you're like picking the plugs where they go and just design from the word go. With what we did, obviously that's not going to be the case. So we didn't do a video on that. We kind of did multiple videos over the transition. That being said, whenever that question came up, I thought, man, that'd be a really cool video. And it got me thinking, and I kind of hit that dead end of how in the hell would I do that? And I came to the conclusion, I don't think I really can, but I wish I could. So I guess I'm getting at is if you're ever setting anything up and you have any questions about what worked or didn't work, man, get with us. We would be more than happy to tell you what worked well, what didn't work well, the problems we ran into, like the fact I got cords setting about 5 feet 11 inches high. And Kurt's probably like, no, they're not problems. Leave them the way they are. I hit my head on them and I'm going to pull some shit down one of these days. And like just those things that you don't necessarily think of. And I know my entire family probably is like, I hate that guy right now because I've kind of been a slave driver with this room, like where it's been like, the paint must be done by this day. And, hey, everybody, this calendar, mark this day. It's moving day 1 and there'll be a moving day 2. But I almost think you almost have to do that because on the snake area realm, I know that if I didn't do that, then I was going to be up against where do I put the babies, where do I put, like it would just not ever get done right because we had to kind of do it in stages. We had to do it this way to make everything be as successful as possible. So I'm really happy with the results. Kurt says he's happy with the results. I'm going to take him at his word, but it's such a tight tolerance when you start measuring things too to get it to fit everything. Like this only opening just barely enough where I can take it out. You can see it's about to come out now and I only got a few inches. So it's things like that you're thinking about and that you're measuring for. It's, where your tubs are in such a tight tolerance that if you tried to open both, they're going to smack, which is okay because as long as they're not both open at the same time all the way, you can get things out. It's just the little things like that. And then thinking about the transition as you're moving with this baby. This was like how the fuck am I going to do this? Well, if I set up this rack now, I'll have enough room, and then I can clear out the hatchling rack that I call a neonate rack, and it's going to be ready for more babies, and it's going to be, it's this constant influx. And typically the neonate rack was these 2 black racks before, and they may take that role on again, but we had too many babies at one time this year. The way it came was like clutch, 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 nothing. Then we're going to go clutch, 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 clutch again. And so there's only, I think, 28 slots in that rack. There's a good chance we'll fill more than 28 slots of unshed babies this year at one time. So maybe not because we're having them start to shed. So we may have been able to get away with that. I don't know. But it's just little things like that. So when you're setting up a room, I don't think a room's ever completely done. We learned from our last reptile room, and the biggest thing I learned, I think I told Curtis I wanted a fucking hose. Like, I don't know how many times he probably heard me complain about that because I'm carrying in jugs of water, then the water runs out. I'm going and getting jugs of water, and I felt like I was living in a third world country having to haul water back and forth all the time. And I was like, man, this sucks. Like, I just want a hose so I can just assembly line it. And then I know Kurt's lighting, so like that's the other thing we have to think about. And the lighting's not done in here. He's made that abundantly clear to me that there's going to be more lighting. And so what's going to happen one day is I'm like, all right, Kurt, come up here and just say what the fuck you want and let's get it done and get the lighting you want. Because he looks at the room different than I do. I look at the room from the point of, hey, I'm going to work in here every freaking day of my life. So I want it to be 1, comfortable. 2, I want it to make me happy. That's why it's purple. 3, it needs to be very functional. And I need to be able to come in here, get my shit done, and enjoy doing it so my animals are healthier. Those are the things I cared about. I didn't want to be stripping water. I want not to be running very far. I can have room to move, but I can go from right here, reach that, reach this, reach over here where there's a rack there, or here. And I can get to about everything from one spot. That's kind of what I was looking for. Kurt thinks of it different. He's like, man, I'm going to be in here holding the camera, dealing with angles, dealing with lights, dealing with this. So he wants to add lighting to places, and I bought him the biggest 100-watt bulbs I could. He's like, it ain't enough. And I'm like, what the fuck, I can see. But I get it. We're going to come at different points of view. So when it comes to setting up your reptile room, it's going to depend on what you want. Are you going to film in it? Because if you're going to film in it, I can tell you that makes a difference. Our room right now, it really wasn't that conducive to filming. So I'm like, oh, I'll install some lights. And if you could see the roof of the room, there's like, it's like it goes, kind of like that. So I put a light here and a light here. I'm like, well, that'll shine and make this nice bright. Did it help you much?
No, it was bright in the middle, but the ends were.
It kind of still sucked. And the main light in there, I put a bright bulb in, but it had like this, fucking frosted lens cover which is why these don't have full lens covers. Learned a lesson there. That came in the house and it darkened it so much it looked like shit. And so there just wasn't much light. So he was having to buy studio lighting and he was having to run like clamp lamps on things to get the lighting in there right. And I know that just like I want my shit to work easier, Kurt would like his shit to work easier too. Is that correct?
Yes.
So he would like to be able to have more movement. Because now I'll move places, he'll be like, fuck, he moved to shitty lighting. And sometimes he tells me, sometimes he doesn't. But I know he's like, oh, why'd you do that? So when you're setting up your room, again, it's going to be so different. Like our room is going to be different than most people's room because it's things like that we think of. Sometimes I'll try to think of that for him, but the fact of the matter is I'm not going to think of the camera the same way he does because it's what his profession really is. Mine is doing this, so he's not going to think of the snake portion the same way I am. It's like the rat portion, so we all have our own roles. I like this room. I'm like, it'll be really cool because we'll have separate backgrounds. We can do some stuff with the rock in the background, depending on the colors he wants to use. We had the purple, which is really dominating when you first saw it, but as you can see with the racks coming in, the white and the purple top, it's going to look really fucking good. So it'll be kind of, different and things like that. And he was like, yeah, needs more lighting, like a lot more lighting. It's like, I'll put bright lights for you. He's like, yeah, thanks. We need to do some more lighting. So there's going to be a day he gets to be a taskmaster. He's going to be like, all right, fuck this. We're going to install the lighting I want, and that's what we're going to do. And all those things together are what's going to make your reptile room a happy place. So what I can tell you about building a reptile room in a nutshell, if you're getting to the point where you're not going to have just a rack over here and you're like, I want to have a hobby room. And it's not weird to have a reptile room. Your friends are going to think so. Your family's going to think so. Let me reiterate, it's not weird to have a reptile room. And I want you to think about people that have hobbies. I know people with gun rooms where they do all their bullet loading and shit. I like guns. I don't have a gun room, but I know people with gun rooms. I know people with rooms for their electrical work. There's people with rooms for their model trains. There's people with rooms for their sports memorabilia. There's people with their own bar in their house because their hobby is getting drunk all the time. I don't judge. There's people that have, dedicated spaces in their house for their hobby. That's perfect. You should do that. If you have that and it makes you happy, then fuck everybody else. So your hobby's like mine that happens to be snakes, and you're like, you know what, I want a room for my hobby where I can go, I can drop all my work shit at the door and not have to fuck with it anymore. I can put my stresses away and I can just do what I enjoy. And then by all means, I hope you have it. And I hope you're able to get it and it's not a strange thing. So don't listen to those assholes who are like, you have a room for your snakes? So anyway, but set that room up in such a way that makes you happy. The biggest source of contention in the reptile room we have, and it's already going to be one in this room, I can tell. Believe it or not, Kurt, what is it? What's the thing in that reptile room that drives you the most nuts that I refuse to give up?
Oh, your chair.
My chair. I have this rolling chair. And I'm going to have a rolling chair in this room. And Kurt's like, the chair's in the fucking way all the time. It's like, we need to get rid of that chair. And I'm like, no. Chair makes me happy. Why? Because sometimes I'll sit down and just fuck with my snake. Sometimes I like to sit down and doing a video and having a chat. Truth be told, though, my back's fucked up. And it's been fucked up for a number of years. And it's been severely fucked up for probably the last 2 years. I mean, I started having to actually miss time at work over it, taking some medical attention to it. And then I like slipped a disc, basically, I guess is what you'd call it, where my disc swelled up and was shoving my spinal cord into the bone because my spine is narrowing as I'm aging from degeneration from wearing a fucking duty belt. Not that the insurance will agree with that, but that's why that happens. And Kevlar for 20 years. So with that, I know that if I come in here every day and I have 500 snakes, and a lot of these guys I'm also 6'2", and let's be honest, I'm a little bit heavier than I probably should be, but I like to eat, so fuck the world. It's about here, it's good, no problem. Start getting here, starting to bend, and if I do that all day, all the time, I won't be walking. It'll lay me up, and I know that. I know how much it can take, and I'm probably a little oversensitive with it because it scares the shit out of me. Because if you've ever had that happen, I would literally like try to walk and just fall over on my face. It was like I was really drunk without all the fun parts of being really drunk. Just a lot of pain. So with that chair, I can sit there and I can get to those without the pressure on my back, and it makes my hobby a lot more enjoyable. So do whatever makes your room work for you. And if Kurt really hates the chair, I'll just move it out of the way when we film, okay? But my point is, you got to do what works for you, and you got to do what makes you happy. And that's how you set up your reptile room, whether it's 1 or 2 racks, whether you want balls to the wall racks, whether you want racks and display cages, whether you want all display cages. It doesn't matter as long as 2 things are happening. 1, your animals are healthy, and 2, it makes you happy. If it accomplishes those two goals, nothing else fucking matters. What your family says doesn't matter, unless it's your immediate family. I'm not telling you to piss your wife off and get divorced. Don't go getting divorced and blame me. I'm talking about your cousins, brothers, sisters, that type of family. It doesn't matter what they say. It doesn't matter what your coworkers say. It doesn't matter what your friends say. It doesn't matter what that creepy peeping ass neighbor says. It doesn't matter what any of them say. Because you know what? All you got to do is go through life with that smile on your face, because what you're doing is making you happy, and let them worry about everybody else and then be miserable. Because I can tell you this, people who spend their day worrying about what others are doing all the time become miserable. It's like looking at vacation pictures on Facebook all the time of what everybody else is doing constantly and being like, God damn, I wish I was in Italy. You'll eventually make yourself nuts, right? And that's the same thing. They're going to be watching what everybody else is doing and trying to tear it down because they see others are happy and they're not. So don't worry about them. Do what makes you happy. Set your room up how it makes you happy, whether that's a overly cat-scratched rolling office chair, or whether that's more lighting that I could get an unnatural tan in, whatever it is that makes you happy and works well for you, that's what you need to do. Kurt, you got anything you want to add? I kind of went off the rails here and got kind of on a little bit of a rant, but anything you want to add?
Nope.
Speaking of making you happy, make sure you have something with an email on it, because that's really important too. All right, guys, thanks for watching. I'll see you next week.